You do not become weak overnight. It happens slowly, in small decisions, in repeated actions, in unnoticed habits. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, just patterns that repeat every day. You choose comfort, you delay effort, you ignore discipline, and over time, this becomes normal. The silent mind sees this clearly. It understands that weakness is not an event, it is a process, built quietly through what you do when nothing feels urgent. Because your habits do not disappear. They accumulate, they shape your thinking, they shape your actions, they shape who you become. And most people never question them. They repeat the same patterns and expect different results. But nothing changes until the pattern changes. You focus on big changes, big goals, big plans, big outcomes. You believe transformation requires something dramatic, something visible, but the silent mind sees something else. It sees the small things, the quiet actions that repeat every day. Because direction is not decided in one moment, it is decided in patterns. What you do daily moves you forward or keeps you where you are. There is no neutral. Every habit has a direction, even the smallest one. Waking up late, delaying a task, ignoring effort. These seem minor, almost insignificant, but repeated daily, they shape your path, slowly, without urgency, without warning. The dangerous mind understands this. It does not underestimate small actions. It respects them, because it knows that repetition gives them power. One action means nothing. Repeated action means everything. Most people ignore this. They focus on occasional effort. They work intensely for short periods, then stop. They rely on bursts of energy, not consistency. This creates instability. Progress starts, then disappears, because the foundation is weak, built on irregular behavior. The silent mind builds differently. It focuses on consistency, not intensity. It chooses actions that can be repeated daily, even when motivation is low, even when energy is limited. This creates rhythm, a steady pattern that doesn't break. And once rhythm is established, progress becomes predictable, needing constant effort, because the habit carries you. This is where strength begins, not in extreme effort, in controlled repetition. Small habits also shape identity. Not what you say, not what you believe, what you do repeatedly. If you delay often, you become someone who delays. If you avoid effort, you become someone who avoids. If you act consistently, you become disciplined. Identity is not chosen. It is formed through behavior. The dangerous mind takes control of this process. It chooses habits carefully, because it knows that each one reinforces identity. There is no randomness. Every action leaves a mark. The silent mind pays attention to these marks. It notices patterns, where time is spent, where effort is avoided, where discipline breaks. This awareness creates control, because once you see the pattern, you can change it. Most people never reach this point. They live on autopilot, repeating habits without questioning them. Days pass, nothing changes, because nothing is adjusted. The dangerous mind interrupts this cycle. It stops automatic behavior. It replaces it with intentional action. You decide what habits to follow, not based on comfort, based on direction. Where does this action lead? Forward or backward? This question simplifies everything, because every habit has a consequence. Not immediately, but over time. Small habits compound. They build on each other. They create momentum, positive or negative. If your habits are weak, they pull you backward, slowly, quietly. If your habits are strong, they push you forward, consistently, without resistance. This is why small habits matter. They do not feel important in the moment, but they define everything over time. The silent mind does not ignore them. It refines them. It removes what is unnecessary. It strengthens what is useful. This creates efficiency. You are no longer wasting energy on weak patterns. You are reinforcing strong ones. Over time, this becomes automatic. You no longer need to think about acting correctly. You do it naturally, because the habit has been built. This is where discipline becomes stable, not forced, integrated. The dangerous mind reaches this point through consistency, through repetition, through attention to detail, not through sudden change, but through small, controlled actions done every day. This is the truth most people ignore. You are not held back by lack of ability. You are shaped by the habits you repeat. And once those habits change, your direction changes with them. Your routine feels normal, familiar, predictable, easy to follow. You wake up the same way. You move through the same patterns. You repeat the same choices. Nothing feels wrong, because comfort hides the problem. The silent mind understands this. It sees that routine is not always strength. Sometimes, it is the reason you remain the same. Because most routines are built around ease, not growth. You choose what requires less effort. You avoid what creates resistance. You structure your day to feel manageable. This feels efficient, but it limits development. Because growth does not happen inside comfort. It happens where effort increases, where resistance appears, where you are forced to adjust. The dangerous mind sees comfort differently, not as reward, but as a potential trap. Because when comfort becomes routine, you stop challenging yourself. You stop expanding your limits. Everything becomes predictable, and within predictability, there is no pressure to improve. Most people never question their routine. They repeat it daily, without awareness, without adjustment. They assume that consistency means progress. But repetition alone does not create strength. The quality of repetition matters. If your routine is built on comfort, you are practicing weakness every day, slowly, quietly, without noticing. The silent mind examines routine. It asks simple questions. Is this action necessary? Does this behavior create growth? Or does it maintain comfort? These questions reveal truth. Because many routines are not designed for improvement. They are designed for ease. You choose the path that requires less effort, even when you know a better path exists. This is the habit that creates weakness, choosing comfort when effort is required. Repeated daily, this becomes identity. You become someone who avoids difficulty, someone who stays within limits, someone who does not push forward. The dangerous mind breaks this pattern. It introduces controlled discomfort into routine. Not extreme, but consistent. Actions that require effort, that create resistance, that demand focus. This shifts the structure. Your routine is no longer built on ease, it is built on development. Each day becomes training, not maintenance. This creates growth, because you are no longer repeating what is easy. You are repeating what is effective. The silent mind does not remove comfort completely. It controls it. Comfort becomes intentional, limited, used when necessary, not used constantly. This balance is critical, because uncontrolled comfort creates stagnation, and controlled discomfort creates strength. Over time, your tolerance changes. What once felt difficult becomes normal. What once felt uncomfortable becomes manageable. Your capacity increases. You become more capable in all situations. This is how resilience forms. Not through sudden challenge, through daily exposure to controlled difficulty. The dangerous mind builds this slowly. It does not rely on extreme effort. It relies on consistent pressure. Small challenges repeated daily. This builds endurance. because you are training yourself to operate beyond comfort. Without hesitation, without resistance. Most people never reach this point. They remain inside comfortable routines. They avoid pressure. They avoid difficulty. And because of this, they remain the same. The silent mind refuses this. It redesigns routine. It removes what is weak. It strengthens what is necessary. It builds a system that creates growth every day. This requires awareness, because comfort often feels justified. You convince yourself that ease is acceptable, that effort can wait, that improvement can be delayed. But delay becomes habit, and habit becomes identity. The dangerous mind sees through this. It does not wait. It acts within the moment, choosing effort over ease, repeatedly. This creates momentum, because once you begin choosing discomfort, it becomes easier to continue. Your routine transforms, from passive to active, from comfortable to controlled, from weak to strong. This is the shift. Not dramatic, but powerful. Because once your routine changes, everything else follows. Your actions improve, your focus increases, your discipline strengthens, all from one adjustment, replacing comfort-based habits with growth-based habits. This is the truth most people ignore. Your routine is not neutral. It is shaping you every single day. And if it is built on comfort, it is quietly keeping you weak. You repeat more than you realize. Not just actions, thoughts, reactions, choices. Every day, patterns run automatically. You wake the same way. You think the same way. You respond the same way. Nothing feels different, because repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity feels normal. The silent mind understands that repetition is not neutral. It is shaping you. Every repeated action strengthens a pattern. Every repeated thought becomes easier to think again. Every repeated decision becomes automatic. This is how identity forms, not through intention, through repetition. What you do often becomes who you are. The dangerous mind sees this clearly. It does not ignore repetition. It controls it, because it knows that uncontrolled repetition creates limitation. If you repeat weak actions, you become weak. If you repeat avoidance, you become someone who avoids. If you repeat delay, you become someone who delays. This happens slowly, without awareness, because repetition feels harmless in the moment. One action means nothing, but repeated daily, it becomes permanent. Most people underestimate this. They focus on outcomes. They want results, but they ignore the process that creates those results. They repeat behaviors that move them backward while expecting progress. This is contradiction. The silent mind removes contradiction. It aligns repetition with direction. If the goal is strength, the behavior must reflect strength, repeated daily. If the goal is discipline, the actions must reflect discipline, daily. There is no separation. The process and the result are the same. The dangerous mind simplifies this. It does not chase outcomes. It controls repetition, because repetition guarantees outcome, over time, without exception. This is where control exists, not in results, in behavior. Most people try to change through occasional effort. They act once, then stop. They try again, then stop again. Nothing stabilizes, because repetition is broken. The silent mind builds stability through consistency. It repeats the same actions daily, even when it feels unnecessary, even when progress is not visible, because it understands that repetition works silently. Results appear later, but the process is always active. This requires patience, because repetition does not reward immediately. It accumulates, slowly, until one day the result becomes visible, and by that time the identity is already formed. You are no longer trying to become something. You already are, because you have repeated it enough times. The dangerous mind relies on this process. It does not rush results. It trusts repetition, because repetition does not fail. It always produces something. The question is simple. What are you repeating? If you repeat comfort, you become comfortable. If you repeat effort, you become strong. If you repeat avoidance, you become limited. There is no exception. Repetition defines outcome. The silent mind observes its own patterns. It notices what is repeated, what is automatic, what happens without conscious thought. This awareness is critical, because once you see repetition, you can change it. You can interrupt it. You can replace it. Without awareness, you remain locked in the same cycle, repeating the same actions, creating the same results. The dangerous mind breaks this cycle. It removes weak patterns. It replaces them with controlled actions. Simple, repeatable, effective. Over time, these new patterns take over. They become automatic. You no longer need to force them. They happen naturally, because repetition has made them permanent. This is how transformation occurs, not through sudden change, through consistent repetition. Small adjustments repeated daily, until they become identity. The silent mind trusts this process. It does not rely on intensity. It relies on consistency. Because intensity fades, repetition remains. This is the truth most people ignore. You are not defined by what you do once. You are defined by what you repeat. And if you do not control what you repeat, it will control who you become. Failure is not always visible. It does not always appear as a clear mistake. Most of the time, it looks ordinary. It hides inside routine, inside small decisions, inside actions that feel harmless. The silent mind recognizes this. It sees that failure is often practiced daily, not intentionally, but consistently. Each time you delay what should be done, you reinforce hesitation. Each time you avoid effort, you strengthen avoidance. Each time you stop early, you train yourself to quit. These actions feel small, insignificant, but repeated daily, they become skill, and skill becomes identity. The dangerous mind understands this clearly. It knows that you are always training, even when you are not aware of it. Every action is a form of practice. You are either practicing strength or practicing weakness. There is no pause. There is no neutral state. Even in inaction, you are reinforcing something. Most people do not see this. They believe failure happens in big moments, in visible mistakes, in clear setbacks. But real failure is built in small repetitions. It forms quietly, through daily habits that move you away from progress. The silent mind observes these patterns. It notices where effort is avoided, where focus breaks, where discipline disappears. This awareness is uncomfortable, because it reveals truth. You are not just failing occasionally. You are practicing failure through repetition. This realization changes perspective, because once you see that failure is practiced, you understand that it can be unlearned. The dangerous mind uses this insight. It shifts practice. Instead of reinforcing weakness, it begins reinforcing strength. Deliberately, consistently. You replace delay with immediate action. You replace avoidance with engagement. You replace stopping with continuation. These changes are small, but they are repeated, and repetition builds skill. Over time, your default behavior changes. You no longer hesitate. You act. You no longer avoid. You engage. You no longer stop early. You continue. This is how failure is removed, not by avoiding mistakes, but by changing what you practice daily. The silent mind understands that habits are training. Every routine is shaping ability. If your routine is weak, you are training weakness. If your routine is strong, you are training discipline. This is constant. Every day, every action, the dangerous mind takes control of this process. It does not leave training to chance. It decides what to repeat, what to reinforce, what to eliminate. This creates direction, because now your habits are aligned with your goal, not working against it. Most people live in contradiction. They want progress, but they practice delay. They want strength, but they avoid effort. They want discipline, but they choose comfort. This contradiction creates stagnation, because the process does not match the goal. The silent mind removes contradiction. If the goal is strength, the practice must reflect strength, daily, without exception. This requires awareness, because failure is subtle. It hides in routine. It hides in habits that feel normal. You must look closely. Where are you stopping early? Where are you avoiding effort? Where are you choosing ease instead of growth? These questions reveal where failure is being practiced, and once revealed, it can be corrected. The dangerous mind does not ignore this. It acts immediately. Small corrections, repeated daily. This shifts the pattern, gradually, until failure is no longer reinforced, and strength becomes the new default. This is not dramatic. It is controlled, consistent, effective. Because repetition does not fail. It always builds something. The question is simple. What are you building? Weakness or strength? Failure or discipline? The silent mind answers this through action, not intention, not belief, action. Because what you practice daily becomes who you are. And if you are not aware of what you are practicing, you will continue to build what you are trying to escape. You search for intensity, something powerful, something dramatic, something that feels important. You believe progress should feel exciting, visible, significant. But the silent mind sees something else. It sees the ordinary, the repetitive, the actions that feel too simple to matter. Because discipline is not built in intensity. It is built in repetition. And repetition is often boring. Doing the same task again and again, without variation, without excitement, without recognition. Most people avoid this. They want stimulation. They want change. They want to feel engaged, so they chase intensity. They look for new methods, new ideas, new systems, but they ignore what actually works. Consistency. The dangerous mind understands this. It does not chase excitement. It respects repetition, because it knows that boring actions create powerful results. Not immediately, but over time. The silent mind accepts monotony. It does not resist it. It uses it. Because within repetition, there is control. There is stability. There is precision. You refine your action each time you repeat it. Small improvements, almost invisible, but they accumulate. This is how mastery forms, not through variation, through repetition. Most people never reach this level, because they cannot tolerate boredom. They stop when interest fades. They switch when things feel repetitive. They abandon the process before it produces results. The dangerous mind does not stop. It continues even when nothing feels new, even when nothing feels exciting, even when progress is not visible. Because it trusts the process. It understands that results are delayed, and discipline requires patience. This creates separation. While others seek stimulation, you build consistency. While others change direction, you continue. While others stop, you repeat. This is where strength forms, not in moments of intensity, in moments of repetition. The silent mind simplifies everything. It removes unnecessary complexity. It focuses on essential actions, the ones that must be done daily. Nothing more, nothing less. This creates clarity. You are not overwhelmed. You are not distracted. You are focused on what matters. And what matters is often simple, but not easy, because simplicity requires discipline. You must repeat what feels ordinary, without needing it to feel important. This is difficult, because the mind seeks stimulation. It wants novelty. It wants change. It wants something new. The dangerous mind resists this. It stays with the process. It repeats what works, even when it feels dull, because it knows that boredom is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that repetition is working. You are no longer distracted. You are focused. This is where discipline deepens. When you can continue without needing excitement, without needing variation, without needing external reward. You act because it is required, not because it feels good. Because your actions are no longer dependent on emotion. You are steady, consistent, reliable. This reliability creates results, slowly, but permanently. Because repetition builds structure. It creates a foundation that does not collapse. Unlike intensity, which fades, the silent mind builds through consistency. It trusts the process. It understands that small actions repeated daily create large outcomes, even if they feel insignificant in the moment. The dangerous mind embraces this truth. It does not seek recognition. It does not seek excitement. It seeks progress. And progress is built quietly, through boring actions done consistently. This is the truth most people ignore. They avoid boredom, and in doing so, they avoid discipline. Because discipline is not found in what excites you. It is found in what you repeat when nothing feels exciting. And once you accept this, everything changes. You stop searching for intensity. You start building consistency. And in that consistency, you find strength that does not fade. You are waiting for change. You tell yourself it will happen soon. When you feel ready. When you feel motivated. When the right moment arrives. But that moment keeps moving. It never stays long enough for you to act. Because motivation is not stable. It rises, then disappears. And when it fades, you return to the same habits, the same patterns, the same routine that keeps you where you are. The silent mind understands this. It knows that nothing changes until behavior changes. Not intention. Not feeling, action, repeated action, because habits are the real system running your life. They decide what you do automatically, without thinking, without effort. And if your habits are weak, your results will always return to weakness, no matter how motivated you feel for a short time. The dangerous mind sees this clearly. It does not chase motivation. It targets habits, because habits create permanence. Motivation creates moments. Moments fade. Habits remain. Most people try to change by adding effort. They push harder for a few days. They act with intensity. Then they stop. Because the system has not changed. The old habits pull them back. This creates frustration. Because effort was made, but nothing lasted. The silent mind approaches differently. It does not force change. It replaces patterns, slowly, deliberately, one habit at a time. Not try to change everything. You change what repeats daily. Because daily repetition creates identity. The dangerous mind breaks habits by interrupting them. The moment a pattern begins, it changes direction. You delay less. You act sooner. You avoid less. You engage more. You stop less. You continue longer. These shifts are small, but they are repeated, and repetition creates transformation. Over time, the old pattern weakens, the new pattern strengthens, until the new habit becomes automatic. You no longer think about it. You act. This is real change, not temporary, permanent, because it is built into your behavior. The silent mind focuses on this process. It does not rush. It does not expect immediate results. It trusts repetition, because repetition always works, given enough time. Most people fail because they expect fast change. They want quick results. When they do not see them, they stop. They return to old habits. The cycle continues. The dangerous mind avoids this trap. It removes urgency. It focuses on consistency, daily improvement, even if it is small, even if it is invisible, because small change repeated daily creates massive difference over time. This is how transformation happens, quietly, without announcement, without dramatic moments, Just controlled repetition, day after day, until everything changes. The silent mind understands that habits are not easy to break, because they are automatic. They require no effort to maintain. Breaking them requires awareness and action at the right moment. Each time you interrupt a habit, you weaken it. Each time you repeat a new action, you strengthen it. This is the process. Simple, but not easy, because it requires consistency. Not once, not occasionally, every day. The dangerous mind commits to this. It does not rely on feeling, it relies on structure. A clear system of what must be done, and it follows that system without negotiation. This creates stability. Your progress no longer depends on motivation, it depends on repetition, and repetition is controllable. This is power, because you are no longer waiting for the right moment. You are creating progress through action, daily, consistently, without interruption. This is the truth most people avoid. You do not need more motivation, you need new habits, because habits decide everything, and once they change, your life follows. You were waiting for a moment where everything feels right, where your mind is clear, where your energy is high. But that moment was never the answer, because the truth is simple. You don't rise when you feel ready. You rise when you act without needing to feel ready. Every day, your habits are deciding your direction, quietly, without noise, without warning. They are either building you or breaking you. There is no pause, no neutral ground, only repetition. The same actions again and again, the same choices again and again, until they become you. The silent mind understands this. It does not wait. It does not hesitate. It does not rely on emotion. It acts consistently, even when it is difficult, even when it is boring, even when no one is watching. Because discipline is not loud. It is quiet. It is built in moments no one sees. The early decisions, the repeated effort, the actions you take when you could easily stop. This is where strength forms, not in intensity, in consistency. The dangerous mind commits to this path. No excuses, no delay, no dependence on motivation, only action, daily, controlled, unbreakable. Because once your habits change, everything changes. Your direction shifts, your identity evolves, your results follow, not instantly, but inevitably. This is the final truth. You are not waiting for change, you are repeating your way into it. So choose carefully what you repeat, because that is what you will become.